All right. So, hi everyone. For those I haven't met before, my name is Heather Howard, and I'm the Executive Director of the Conception Bay Area Chamber of Commerce. It's great to see so many faces that I haven't seen in so long, as well as some that I've never seen before. So, thanks so much for hopping in. Just a quick little review. I know some people have used Zoom before, and I know we're all using this on different devices and different computers, but if you can take a minute to find the chat box button and open that up, because you might see some conversation happening in there as we move along. And also, if you can, at the bottom, find the participant button so that you can see, you should be able to see that you can raise your hand. There should be a hand raising button. So the best thing for us to do is, if you really want a chance to say something, just hit that button and I'll be keeping an eye on it. And then in the chat box, I'll kind of put everyone in queue so you know when you can speak, just so we're not all butting into each other. And also feel free to make any comments or ask any questions or get clarity in the chat box. I just want to take a quick minute to share my screen here before we get started. Hopefully everyone can see this. So this is, you can see this, right, Margo?
Yep.
Okay. So this is our COVID-19 business response team website. And if you're on this call, you probably already have seen this, and you're probably on our email list, because that's basically where we put this out. So I just wanted to draw your attention to the news section of this site. When all this started, we were doing daily email updates because things were coming at us so quickly, and we really wanted to share the information with you. But now we're overloaded with information. So I've decided to just summarize any information that comes down daily or every couple of days with a news update on our website right here. And also to send out an email once a week. Unless there's something really important that comes down, I would send it out more than that. Also here, you can check out our business directory, and if you're not on it yet and are open, you can click this button right here to send in your information, so you can see some businesses that are currently operating with modifications. So that's cbachamber.com/COVID-19, and it's our info hub. It has any webinars that we'll be hosting over this period of time when we can't host any networking events in person. Margo, did I say everything I said I was going to say?
Yes, maybe that and more.
Is that a bad thing?
Yeah, that was good.
Good.
All right, well, I guess I'll step in. So thanks to everybody for joining us today on the forum. Special thanks to MP Kim McDonald. I'm sure you have just a little bit on your plate right now covering the riding of Avalon, so we're very pleased to have you here with us today. We also have MHA Barry Petton with Conception Bay South, and Carol on behalf of Helen Conway Ottenheimer for the District of Harbor, Maine. And I think we've seen some town councilors on here. Thanks, Christine, for joining us in CBS, along with Jennifer Lake. I think Colin might be joining us as well. I think we also have some reps from Holyrood, Marjorie, as well as Jennifer in Paradise. So full house, lots of community partners, and most importantly, business owners. So thanks to all of you guys for taking time out to join us today. We really appreciate it, and we certainly need to hear from you so we can help in any way we can. So thanks for coming along, and hopefully we'll get something out of this. So we've talked to a lot of you guys. So we've talked to a lot of business owners. We've talked to a lot of folks that were going through modifications with the business, some that have been trudging on with minimal modifications, and some that are absolutely shut down, unable to operate. So we've seen definitely a mixed bag of folks in precarious situations, a lot of different scenarios and situations, and it's definitely changing by the day. And hopefully this is going to be short if we can all get through this, but nonetheless, here we are, and we're dealing with the present. So all the mindfulness topics and tools and techniques are always telling us to do. So we thought this would be a really good mechanism to connect everyone. Does my heart good just to see people, but we need to hear from you. So we've spoke to a lot of folks. Heather has been with that headset on, I think, for about a month straight now. So everything from the local level to chambers and calls and businesses with members and non-members, Board of Trade calls, open forums, town halls, as well as at the Atlantic level with the Chamber of Commerce, at the Canadian level with the Canadian Chamber of Commerce. And all of the conversations all come back to needing to hear from the business owners. And it's important. So we need to know what's happening, the good, the bad, the ugly, challenges, wins, everything. And we've seen it have an impact. So from an advocacy perspective, we've had a lot of calls with Minister for Small Business. Minister Ng has been very closely connected with the Chamber of Commerce, and they're listening. We've had a lot of conversations with Minister Melanie Jolie with her portfolio's economic development. So they are definitely listening, and I think it's up to us to give them feedback. We've already seen it happen in terms of, I mean, the government has certainly had to act swift. This is like nothing we've seen before, and hopefully we never have to use the word pandemic again. But in terms of what they're just, operating as quickly as they can, and they need our help to sort of see if there's any gaps. They've already listened in terms of changes to programs that have already been announced. Chambers are able to act quickly, hear from members, get feedback. If there's still gaps with programs, we'd love to hear about it. If it's working for you, it's not working for you. Again, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So this is a great opportunity to get everyone together, hear those stories, and maybe it's just a question you might have. We might have an answer. Someone else on the call might want to chime in that they're facing the same, or we're all in it together. And I think Newfoundlanders in particular, we had the test run with Snowmageddon, so I think we are definitely ones that we show unity, and I think this is another chance for us to show that community impact, and hopefully the Chamber can assist you. And to all our political folks on the line, you can certainly pop in at any time to add to the conversation. It's certainly not something directed at you, but if there's any insight or you have any perspective to lend, we certainly would appreciate that along the way. So that's sort of the long and the short of it. It's just to have a conversation. So I guess we can open up that chat box now. So all things are on the table. So I know I've heard from some folks as well. So maybe we'll just leave it there with the folks on the line and see who has some burning questions or comments, or just want to give us an update on where they are and how they're getting through on a daily basis.
If you want to speak, you can either raise your hand or you can unmute right now, or let me know in the chat box. Oh, okay. So I'm just gonna give Ken the opportunity there to speak. Where did he go? There he is. And it's not letting me unmute. Ken, I might need to get you. Oh, there you go.
Yep, no, it worked.
Okay, good.
No, I just wanted to say that, and Margot, you did say a lot of the right things, and every bit of it was exactly right, actually. It is something that we haven't experienced before, regardless of whether we live in St. Shots, Newfoundland, or we live in Vancouver, or Toronto, Montreal, or anywhere in between. This is new to everybody, the pandemic and the situation for not just our country, but for the world to be in. And things are changing. They almost change daily, whether it's a certain program that got rolled out, and yes, there are gaps going to appear and everything. And it's incumbent on people such as the Chamber or members to identify those gaps. And the reason to be on it with you guys today is that I want to take some notes. If I hear anything that I can answer directly today, I'll certainly find out the answer and let the people know who asked that particular question. We're doing that now every day, almost every hour of the day, really. Mm-hmm. There's somebody phoning and asking about a certain program, or why they didn't qualify, or how do they qualify? How can I take advantage of this for my business, or or just for their own personal income if they've lost their job due to COVID-19. So it's been a new experience, I think, for all of us. And I think we have to stay focused and keep doing exactly what we're doing. Because if we lose sight of that right now, we'll be that much longer trying to get out of this, getting businesses back to normal. And I think the Prime Minister said it right when he said, you know, we want businesses to come out of this just as strong or stronger than they were when it started. So hopefully that will be the end result. I fear everybody won't come out in as good a shape as they were when this started, but there's probably underlying reasons for that. But I'm sure we'll all try and do everything we can to make that possible.
Thanks, Ken.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point. I think it was the CFIB had mentioned that one in five, you know, can't make it past a month, and we're sort of a month into it. So hopefully those supports that have already been announced are going to help them at least weather the storm until we see how the days unfold. And just say hi to folks that I now have my gallery screen open so I can see Jennifer and Colin and folks. So welcome to all you guys.
Okay, Daryl.
Yeah, first, thanks to the Chamber for everything you guys are doing. Certainly the updates are timely and we appreciate them. I've just seen that there's been changes to the CERB benefit to allow for I believe up to $1,000 a month of earnings, which is good for our members. As a chiropractor, we can still offer emergency services. We're dialing that down significantly, of course, because we're trying to keep people at home. But those people who would likely end up in an emergency department if they don't see us, it's better to see us in our offices. But we had concerns about that because if we applied any type of treatment, that would be an earning, and then it would make us ineligible. So I understand that they just came out with that, which is great. So thanks to Mr. McDonald for certainly all the advocacy I'm sure that's been going on, as well as our MHAs here provincially. The things that I think still are gaps are the differing structures of businesses that because they may be incorporated and may take dividends instead of salary, it makes them ineligible for the wage subsidy as well as the business account because they don't have payroll of $50,000. Mm-hmm. And then also we have some of our members in our profession that would employ just one front office staff, and then they take their earnings as professional income. And so their payroll is still under $50,000 technically on a T4 summary, but they actually report earnings higher. It's just done in a different way. So they don't qualify for any of the benefits, we'll say. So if there was anything the Chamber would, you know, do, and I'm sure that we're not the only businesses that are like that. There's convenience stores with small, you know, just mom and pop shops that probably couldn't meet that. So certainly any advocacy that can be done around changing those rules would be greatly appreciated.
Thanks, Daryl. If anyone has a question and they would like me to ask it, you can, in the chat box, you can select in the drop-down menu and you can send a message to me and I can ask an anonymous question on your behalf. Okay, Agatha, you can go ahead.
Hi, everybody. First of all, I just want to say thank you to the federal and provincial governments for any help that's already been put in place, that we're looking at criteria that we might be able to apply for. We're open with modifications and counseling and therapy office. So far we've been able to keep on our staff, and I don't think I would have been able to even look at that without the possibility of the wage subsidy. So that's a big help to us in continuing on with uninterrupted service to clients. I just have a couple of several things that I was checking on with regards to my expenses that go out each month, and I just wondered if anybody else was running into this. I've checked with my commercial insurance because, of course, there's nobody on site, so I'm paying still for my monthly payment. I checked in with them, but all they can really do is either defer half the payment for a few months, and then I would have to still pay the full policy. Or the only other option I have is to cancel the full policy and go through the work of reapplying again. The second one, and I'll just be really quick about that, is the rent. Like I have another location where I approached the landlord there about, and I realized their businesses as well. But I wasn't sure, if there's been any help for landlords, because I guess their response was, again, they would defer the payment. I would pay half this month, half next month, but they would expect all full payment by December, which is still hard. And the other one is Workplace NL that I'm still continuing to pay each month. So probably that's all we can do about it, but I just thought I'd raise it and see if anyone else ran into that. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Agatha. Margot, did you hear anything about Workplace NL? I thought there was.
They were deferring payments, I think, until June 30th, but I don't think they've done an update since that. They were waiving interest charges and penalties as well. But after that June period, I don't know if they've made another extension or decision on that since that time. It'll be June before we know it.
Okay, Andrea Goss.
Yeah, just wanted to speak to the Workplace NL. They are deferring, and but I put an email out to them actually for a little bit of further clarification, because your payments are set up monthly. But for me, for instance, in our business, no one's working. So we aren't using up the portion of our payroll estimate. So I put out the question, could we be reassessed in June month? Based on if I set up for $500,000 payroll for the year, and we get to June and we haven't even hardly made a dent in that, could I be reassessed to reduce the payments for the months left in the year? So I haven't heard back on that, but I'm thinking that's something that could be negotiated with Workplace NL, because if you have no one working, then your payroll is going to be less this year than you estimated it would have been when you submitted in February.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
Does anyone else have anything to add on the Workplace NL that, because that seems to be a common thread there already. Daryl, go ahead, Daryl.
Yeah, just to say that they, in their release that came out, they did say that they would be adjusting payroll estimates. So I think once everything gets back, they will reach out to people individually, or they'll actually be taking calls, and they will adjust those. At least that's what they've said.
Okay, awesome. Margot, I just had a question, and this would be directed towards Ken, if Ken has any insight. Wondering about the Canada Summer Jobs Grants. The call for applications was closed, but then there was an update saying that, it's a possibility that some people can apply. Do you have any idea or updates on that, Ken?
Yeah, not much of an update really. I did get, actually, as they were announcing that, our list came out, because we get provided the list of who actually applied and who, according to Service Canada, are recommended for students. The problem with it this year is going to be, will places that have been recommended to have student workers or summer camp workers, will they actually need them? And I'll use CBS Soccer as an example. They usually apply for students, and they did again this year. But is the CBS Soccer program going to go ahead as planned? It may or may not. and other organizations right throughout the riding are going to be the same. So I've got to go down through my list. Of course, as the MP, we can move numbers from here to there and everywhere else. But again, you'd like to know if businesses are going to be, or groups are going to be needing the students they ask for, because then that'll give you flexibility to move it elsewhere. I think the biggest change that was announced, of course, was that now the private sector will be covered for up to 100%, which it used to be 50%, whether it was a Tim Hortons or a Subway or a little convenience store, they had to pay 50%, but now that's 100. So the only problem with that is the budgets for each riding didn't increase. So there will be less students able to get a job from the program this year. So I don't know if they're going to increase it. I haven't heard anything on it. I'd like to see them increase the program, the budget amount, so we haven't got to cut back on other people that have used the program year after year pretty well and now can't get the same number that they need to run their program. So it's still up in the air to some degree, but it is going ahead. I've got my list. I've got to go through it, and I got to have it submitted, I think, probably by Monday as to any changes that I'm making to it or any recommendations. So again, it's almost like everything else. It's a day by day when it comes to changes. I'm sure people other than me are asking the same questions of the program now, because everybody is looking at their list and saying, well, if these people are now 100%, I haven't got the same number of students I had last year. So where's the benefit in that? So it is an extended period for when it can go, and they are going to extend the period for applications, because I think with businesses now knowing they can be covered for that amount of money, the 100%, businesses may be more inclined to try and hire a student or two students this summer to help out when things try and get back to normal.
So you don't think it'll be for the new applications, just those covering essential services? It might be all businesses could be on the table depending on funding?
It's basically what I understood. It's for all businesses. The private sector now is supposedly covered for up to 100% of the salary, which last year it was 50%. So
I didn't know if that was just the ones that had already submitted applications or if it was going to be open.
And I've got lots of private individuals who have applied and have been recommended for approval, whether it be for one summer student or two. And I've got lots that applied and didn't meet the threshold to get approved. But I don't know where that's going to fall now. So I gotta try and get some clarification from the minister on it to see if it's going to include extra money or if we got to work within the parameters that we have.
So if we have business owners who are thinking, obviously they're thinking creatively right now and thinking maybe I can hire a student and that'll help me get to where I need to be with all this. Would you suggest that business owners reach out to us if they're considering applying and didn't apply, so that maybe we can feed that information to you?
Definitely, but I wouldn't want to see a business apply for a summer student rather than hire back one of their regular employees for that period. We'd rather see the employees get hired back first and hire a student, yes, to complement your workforce that you now have. Let's not leave somebody home for the sake of getting a student when the government is going to pay the 100% of it. I'd rather see that full-time worker or whoever it was get back on the job site first before you hire a student to do that.
Mm-hmm. On the provincial side, Barry, do you know, because I know they announced the wage subsidy, I think it was the post-secondary was left, and I think the high school one had already been announced. Do you know anything in terms of how the subsidies might look for students on a provincial level, or is it still an unknown right now? You're on mute too, I think, too.
No.
Okay.
There you go. Oh, he is. Oh, there.
Now?
Yeah.
Okay, no, there's no real final decisions. I know just before the pandemic struck, I guess there was everything was full steam ahead at the time, but there's been I guess to Ken's point, this just has been an unbelievable experience, I guess, from political point people like us to let alone business owners. I mean, all my sympathy in the world for every business owner out there trying to struggle through this pandemic, the economy. It's unbelievable, and it changes every day. So I know I have spoke to several ministers over the last number of weeks, and I personally don't know if they know it or two. You know what I mean? It's one of those things that I don't think there's any final decisions, because I think the thing people need to realize is that when everyone says returning to normal, I don't know what the new normal will be. Like, you're hearing all these various reports and nobody seems to know that answer from the world experts. So what's going to be normal? Like, to Ken's point, some of these programs, the summer programs, CBA soccer is a prime example. I mean, I give students that well. And will there be CBA soccer with social distancing? I mean, they're talking in the summer, there probably will not be no soccer. There'll probably be no gatherings. So do you give students, so I think the province are much in the same situation as the federal government. I think we're all kind of trying to piece this together as we go along. And I know from our perspective, it's hard sometimes to give solid answers to a lot of questions, because I know my office works closely with Ken's office on a daily basis. I mean, they're back and forth on every issue that comes up, and it's a great working relationship, because as the cliche has been said through this pandemic, we're all in this together. And it's probably no truer statement ever said during this. Political stripes are by the wayside, and we're trying to figure this out as well. So to all the business owners, I've spoke to numerous ones that I see on the screen there now. And if there is anything we can do, I know from my office we can do provincially, I'm sure Ken feels the same way. We're there, but it's hard to give an answer today when tomorrow that could change. It's just the way it's moved. That's the way this has moved. In the beginning, for 2 or 3 weeks, it was really rapid. Now lately it seems to be becoming, people have adjusted to the new way, but it's still changing by every second day. You don't know what's going to happen today. 2 days from now could be totally different. So on that note, I think I'd keep you all posted and find out what happens. But right now, I think from what I'm gathering, government is pretty well to a standstill. I mean, there's hardly any people in there working from home. So I don't think there's any real serious decisions being made until we can get an idea when we can even think about going back to some sort of normalcy. So summer jobs and all these sort of things, I think are something that's a bit off. But there may be, there's something, I think, as business owners, there may be some other programs that may be able to have to be considered to try to keep our economy, because our economy is in big trouble now. So maybe there are other programs that are on the horizon, because we have to protect, small business and business in general, they got to be protected. If I do find any more information, I'll definitely pass it along.
Great. And further to that point, I guess that brings up another question that we had in terms of Newfoundland versus the other provinces. So I see Evan on the call here from BDC, so thanks for joining us, Evan. We noticed in the press release, so right now, as it looks, every other province has a working capital sort of program, whether it's a bridge type funding program or a working capital program, mainly for those who may not qualify for that, the 40,000 interest-free loan, or through some of the BDC, EDC, charter bank sort of lending. And I know on the Atlantic level, through the Community Business Development Corporations, the New Brunswick government, they've struck an arrangement where there's 5.5 million that's going to go to small businesses in the forms of a loan, but low interest loan. Nova Scotia, I think, just signed on. PEI had one for about 5 million as well. And I know the economy in Newfoundland is certainly not one where they might have that 5 million to throw around for something like this. But is there any talk that you're aware of, whether it's through TCII or some sort of working capital potential offering? It seems like ACOA is saying talk to province is saying talk to ACOA. I don't know if you have any insight or if that's sort of much like Canada Jobs at a standstill.
Well, probably it is. I know there's a lot of concern out there and a lot of conversation, because people mightn't realize, I guess a lot do, some don't, but there's a committee that, it's an all-party committee that meets every single morning, discusses day's events, the world events, the province events, and all those issues come up, and they're tied to the economy, of course. And so to your point, there's not lost on that committee and our party, and I think all parties, all three parties, that businesses need help. It's just trying to find the right recipe, and to push it to push into the provinces and back and forth. I guess that's some nature of governments. That'll never change, pandemic aside. So that's the norm. So, but I hear you, and it's like, I'm keeping a few notes myself too, to discussed, to bring up to caucus to have a further discussion with the committee, which entails the Premier and the Minister of Finance is on that committee. So they're the right people. And I'll also, Bernie Davis, Minister of TCII, I have a pretty good relationship with him as well, and we're back and forth on many occasions. So, but it's all valid points, and I like I said, I'll whatever possible. I mean, whatever voice you need, I'm only too glad to be that voice. Whatever I can do to help you.
Tell them to divert it all to the CBS and surrounding region, and we'll be quiet, and we won't release this web call, and no one will be any the wiser. Might be a good time just to, I know BDC is here with Evan, not to throw you in the spotlight, but what's the uptake been in terms of, I know the programs have been pretty new on the BDC side. Is there any idea at this point of the intake or what that looks like right now, or people getting approved, disqualified, all sorts of things?
Yeah, so basically our president released a video yesterday, published to LinkedIn. I'm not sure if it's on other social media networks, where he basically did a breakdown of what has taken place for us over the last 5 weeks. In the first 3 weeks of this pandemic, we received about a year's worth of applications for support. So that just kind of tells, I guess, the fact that there was a real bottleneck in our system, and that does currently still exist. We've spent lots of time moving people around and trying to reduce the bottlenecks in terms of some of those back and forths that might happen with credit, etc. So we've definitely had a smoother flow of getting these loans out the door, and I've certainly seen loans go out the door well above and beyond what would have taken place prior to this. It's very important to us at this point. You know, we do have preferred interest rates, repayment terms. I think it's really well set up for the foreseeable future to get businesses through this. But the main thing is we don't want to overburden businesses with debt too large for them to be able to process and handle after this. So that's kind of been the real notion, and that line that's necessary to flirt. And with these new programs that have come out, it's a lot nicer than just saying, okay, here's a loan to bridge the next 6 months. With the wage subsidy programs, et cetera, they're all kind of fitting together, different pieces of the pie. And that new $40,000 program that just came out with the charter banks this week, that's very much another piece of the pie that I think is just alleviating some of that backlog on our end right now. So the uptake has been good. I got to say that the determination of most of the entrepreneurs I've talked to has been overwhelming, and I think everyone sees that light at the end of the tunnel. It's just determining where that tunnel ends and making sure that everyone's adequately prepared.
Great.
Catherine?
Yeah, actually, I was going to speak to that particular program that Evan was just talking about. I'm curious if there's any small business owners in the audience now that may have applied or looked into this co-lending program for the SMEs that the BDC and the financial institutions are managing. I have a couple of clients, myself, business clients, that have reached out to some of the financial institutions, and they really have just been lost in a spider's web with little direction. So I'm curious from, I guess, the entrepreneurial side, if anybody has, applied for this or looked into it, and what kind of difficulties, if any, they're running into.
Don't be shy.
It's okay. I just got a private message, so I don't.
Oh, okay.
That's
Hi,
okay.
Catherine, it's
Oh.
Lisa.
Hey, Lisa, how you doing?
Good. So I've been trying to. I'm in the process of applying for and just received my site license for the sanitizer production. So that's good news for us. I did apply to the bank for some interim funding, but I haven't heard anything back. And because I'm just a small business, pretty much, you know, me and just a couple of other part-time people, I don't fall under that 50,000, you know,
No,
for salary last year,
yeah,
because I didn't take a salary last year.
right.
So
But
I really don't know what's going to happen with that. And so I've sort of like, work my guts out to keep my business going, and we're finally doing well. But I don't know if BDC or the banks are even looking at people that are in that kind of a category.
I know with the $50,000 one, that's a different one. But I was referring to this one, I don't know if it's a loan guarantee program, co-lending program, or
Yes,
whatever.
I'm referring to the same one, but you had to
Yeah,
have a salary, payroll of over $50,000
not,
to qualify.
not for this particular one. I don't think, Evan, maybe you can correct me, but I think with the co-lending, the 80-20 split, I believe, you don't have to have the $50,000 salary for that one, do you?
I think you may. On my end, to be completely honest, we've been kind of, from an account manager level within my position, we've been focused on the internal BDC stuff. A lot of things with that program the information hasn't been relayed quite as effectively as I would have liked.
Okay.
BDC is kind of it's co-lending from the standpoint that we are providing the funds that are going out the door for these charter banks and for these charter bank loans, but it's essentially just another route for the Canadian government and for us to get funds out there because the BDC backlog is so strenuous. I think the $50,000 rule, I think that may be correct.
Okay.
I have heard talks that for sole proprietors, et cetera, they are looking at making some adjustments. I'm not sure exactly where that lays as right now.
All right. I was misinformed on that. So yeah. Okay. So you've applied, Lisa, to your financial institution and haven't heard back. Is that correct?
Yeah, TD is usually excellent. I guess they're just trying to do the same thing that everyone else is trying to do right now, and come up with a solution and deal with everybody. I'm going to call my account manager and see if I've heard anything from him in the meantime. We'll see how it goes.
I think I saw their stat, and I don't know how current it was, but there was 70,000, I think, that TD had seen at that point, and 50,000 were approved, or somewhere around that level. But that could have been in the first hour, because there's been certainly a lot of applications.
I did hear that, I think it was an RBC on another call, someone did apply, but like they were very I guess if you don't meet the requirement of the 50,000, like they're not even looking at, because where you do have to put your T4 sum in, I believe, on application, I think so. Maybe it's the fact that they're actually not even looking at it. So if you're at 49,500, where do you stand? And I guess this is where that bridge gapping thing that other provinces are putting out would help some of these business owners. So I think that, I know, like, I'm taking notes and this call is recorded. I know I didn't say that at the beginning, but this is the kind of things that we want to hear and put this together and find out what's happening. Okay, and Daryl. Go ahead, Daryl.
Yeah, I just wanted to address what Lisa had said there. The Provincial Chiropractic Association is starting to look to create some relationships for maybe sourcing for equipment and supplies for our members when things get back to normal. So we'll need, obviously, high volumes of hand sanitizer and clinic disinfection stuff. So just thinking, when Lisa said that, we would probably be interested in working with local businesses to secure those supply chains. And larger organizations like ours could probably, even prepay orders or things like that to give people the working capital in order to put the stuff together. So, if there's opportunities, I think, with businesses to support each other that way, that might be an option as well.
I think that's awesome. Thank you. And I've had a lot of help from like other local companies, because we tried to do some just volunteer things to help seniors out, you know. We've had a lot of businesses supply some alcohol that we've made for senior citizens homes and first responders, and like the response of everybody working together has been really, really good. And like we can continue to do that. I think everyone will be in a lot better shape at the end.
Great. I don't know if anyone else wants to raise their hand, but Jennifer Lake, I was going to give you the mic for a minute there.
Thank you, Heather. I have a comment, but I also have a question for all the business owners. Oh, just 1 second. I'm on call, bud.
The joys of working from home.
Of course, right? The minute I get the mic.
I love it.
That's always Murphy's Law.
This is amazing.
Yeah. So my comment was around the Canada Summer Jobs Program. And I think that for anyone that may, and this is something for Ken perhaps to keep in mind, that, and I'll stay on the same vein as CBS soccer example that we used. The purpose of that program is to get our students working and you know, to give them some experience and to get them tuition and those types of things. And I think that we need to be a little bit creative when it comes to what we can have a student do. So again, on the CBS soccer example, soccer may not happen as we're used to, but you know, there may be some virtual programming that a student could do. There may be some canvassing of its current members that a student may be able to do from home. So some of those types of things. So if any of you have applied and are thinking, oh, well, I can't have a student because whatever reason, let's try and be a little bit creative to see if there's anything we can do to put some or half of them to work anyway. So that was my comment on that. My question was, since this all started, the town of Conception Bay South and my economic development counterparts in Paradise, Mount Pearl, have been in touch constantly, as well as Colin, our economic development coordinator. We've also been in touch all together with the Chamber of Commerce and the Board of Trade, both the CBA, Mount Pearl Paradise, and St. John's. And we're all meeting often, at least once a week, sometimes daily, sometimes hourly. And we're kind of doing what we can. And I've often, any of you who have met with me personally on your business within the town, you've often heard me say, I can't sit here at my desk and think up things that you need. We need you to tell us what you need. And we really would like to offer webinars, offer topics that are relevant to you, as opposed to us trying to think what you might like to hear about. We've been trying to filter through some of the information that we're hearing on daily announcements and navigating through that and helping you through that. But we really want to do what we can and hear from you for you to tell us what we can do. I know from the CBA Chamber of Commerce, Heather's developed a fantastic resource that she showed you very briefly in the beginning, the Open for Business site. And I think, you know, it's imperative that you get yourself listed onto that directory. And even in the short term, it's going to help you, but it's going to help you in the long term. And now is the time to build your network. You're sitting home wondering, what am I doing? What can I do? How am I going to save my business? You need to build your network now and continue to develop those relationships. Now is the time when you have good listening ears of some people out there that will help you build your business. And those are the consumers that are in the town. So the more you can get yourself online, the more you can get yourself out there. If you are in an area of expertise that you'd like to offer yourself up to provide a webinar to businesses in the town, you know, again, that's a good way to get some information out there on what you do. And then your local business community may support you more in the long run, because maybe you didn't know that there was something that service or that program or that product was actually offered in CBS. So get yourselves marketed, and you know, please let us know if there's anything that we can do to assist you. That's it for me. Now everyone's gone outside and it's quiet here again.
Thanks, Jennifer. So yeah, if you do have any, you know, even when it comes to training and skill building, if there's something that you're thinking about in your business that might help you, we did chat, there's been lots of talks about Shopify right now, and I know that doesn't fit everyone's business, but you know, if you have questions about e-commerce or anything, please do reach out, and like we can help you get connected and get creative if that's what you need.
Heather, one thing with the Shopify, so if somebody who doesn't want to do a full website with Shopify, you can do a Facebook Shopify site. It's like $15 a month plus USD, so it's under $25. And it's like most of my business go through Facebook. Like a lot of retailers, a lot of Newfoundlanders just love Facebook, and that's where our customers are. So if anyone is interested in looking at that, I mean, I've been on Shopify since 2014. I don't mind helping anybody. If they have any questions, they can just send it to me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great,
So,
Lisa.
Thanks, Lisa.
And further to that, I guess, if it's something that's large scale, and I mean, if anything, the pandemic is showing us that connectivity is key, and you know, if we all had Shopify and e-commerce set up, things might look a little differently now for some businesses. Not, I mean, certainly not all can make that shift. They might have a service that just can't be delivered through Shopify, but the CBDCs have an entrepreneurial training fund that will cover 90% of the costs up to $2,000. So any of those sorts of hard business management skills, like if it's something you're learning, reach out to us, because we can certainly help you cover those costs. And even if it's not something that you can execute before, you know, hopefully the pandemic's over soon, but even if it's something that helps you in a year's time, it's definitely a skill that we can still help support long-term.
Hi, this is Rick Stanley. I'm mobile here. You hear me?
Hi, we hear you.
Perfect.
Hey, just a little spin on the tourism part of it all, I guess, for me anyway, and I can elaborate a little bit on what I'm hearing in the industry. We're wrapping up and you know, getting all geared up that hopefully we're going to tap into a lot of the local business and low hanging fruit kind of thing, and we're going to continue on with that, which every year we relied a lot on local business. Over 50% of it is CFAs, I guess, but there's still a good bit, you know, a local business that, and we think this year there's going to be even more because of all this. So we're going to take advantage of that and get out there and do a bit of local marketing, and also get our guides and our staff back to work the best way we can. Also, students, you know, we've applied for a couple of students and hope that we do get them, and we're going to put them to work and doing social media and different guiding and helping out with a lot of the things that we do. We have a lot of different programs, of course, that they fit right into. A lot of our staff that we want to get back are specialized staff, and we're hoping that we're all going to give them a little bit of the pie so that we keep them interested and make sure that we're not forgetting them, of course. Of course, the local businesses, I think it's a great opportunity that we all work together and we support each other, and in more ways than one. So if I can do anything to package or promote or whatever the case may be, piggyback, it was all about the P's, right? So we could, you know, we're there for you. With regards to the loans, yeah, I've applied for the loans as well, the $40,000 one, and just so happened that I had an application in with ACOA for some new equipment and new Zodiacs, and we got 2 brand new Zodiacs en route, and they arrive here at the end of May, early June. So they're going to be going in service, one in Petty Harbor and one in CBS. And so that's going to keep us sexy looking anyway, and hopefully people will want to try out the new Zodiacs, and we're going to do some marketing and stuff like that. Of course, the loans is important, I think, this year, and we also looked at just like saying keeping a low profile this year, but you know, when we really came down to it, we said, you know what, we're going to lose anyway, and if we lose a little, you know, So what? We're losing. But you know what? We're going to be doing something that we're very passionate about, and we're going to be out there, and it's an opportunity to work out for some new programming, some team building, some building on partnerships with and having ambassadors. And you know, I think it's a real good opportunity for us to work out a lot of the methodology and even be more ready in later on in the summer, or even in the fall. You know, and I try to keep it all optimistic that you know, we are going to have some kind of tourism season. There's a lot of the big guys out there, on the other hand, that are relying on motor coaches and conventions and stuff like that. I've been talking to them, and they're gonna hang up the hat for the year, it looks like, because nobody's booking, and they got a lot more overhead and more expenses and so on and so forth, like the big boat tours and like folks like McCarthy Parties and those kind of folks that are relying on the conventions and the motor coaches. That you know, and I can understand where they're coming from, but they were probably only tapping into 10 or 15% of the local market anyway. So for them to get ramped up to get going there, it's probably be a, you know, a big loss for them. But other than that, I think you know, we got a lot of support there in government. You know, I was luckily enough, I had an application in with ACOA prior to all this since last November that for these new Zodiacs, and part of that was for some new programs that we're going to be rolling out and so on. And so I've heard from them recently, and it's got approved. So you know, we're going to try to keep the upbeat spin to all this and get people to get out there. And of course, we're going to be conscientious of the new normal, if we want to call it that. And that's, you know, social distancing, I'm sure, and there's going to be proper PPE and all that. We want our customers to feel comfortable and that, look, let's go out and have an adventure. And even if it is, you know, our boats are licensed for 12 and we can only get out with 6, so be it. You know, we're gonna do what we can. But I think as it all relaxes a little bit, you know, things are going to start rocking and rolling. And you know, come midsummer, late summer, you know, I think the folks that are relying a bit on local tourism or marketing to the local tourism, they're going to come out of it all right.
That's great. And I think we need to hear the optimism sometimes. And I know everybody's suffering in summer. Certainly their losses are more significant than others, but it's great to hear the passion and the positivity, because I think that goes a long way, even in your industry and beyond, just helping others to sort of shift. And, you know, they're all faced with a crossroads, you know, and it's up to them how they take what's happened and move it towards the future, whatever that's going to look like. So good on you, Rick.
This was going to be our busiest year for diving guests coming from away and to dive to shipwrecks. And we've been doing a lot of good work with those shipwrecks over the past few years. And it's now on, you know, the top 10 dive sites of the world kind of thing for people to come and visit. But, you know, I've been talking to, I'd say 75% of them, and I'm asking them, you know, politely to postpone. You know, or I'll give back so much of your deposit, and then we'll hang on to 50%, but we'll give you a 10% discount next year, you know, and stuff like that. And they've been their compassion is coming through with what we're all going through, and so it seems to be working. So anybody that's out there in the bed and breakfast world who had bookings, you know, or the you know, small hotels, motels, whatever, that take bookings and take deposits, then I think if you spin it in the right kind of way, they may just say, I'll defer it. We want to come to Newfoundland anyway, and we'll see you next year, or we'll see you later on in the fall. Or you may not have to give 100% of it back. And at least, you know, if you don't give 100% of it back, even if you hang on at 25% of it, there's a good chance they're coming, you know. But if you give it all back, I find that, well, they might come up with another option and go somewhere else. You never know. But if you know, some people say, well, you're holding on their money, but you know, they're very compassionate of finding, and that they want to come to Newfoundland. We don't have accidental tourists coming to Newfoundland, and people are wanting to come here, and they're compassionate, and they know what the Newfoundlanders are like to begin with, and they know that, and they feel that their money is safe anyway.
And we might follow up with you on the packaging aspect, because I like that in teaming up with, you know, 4 or 5 different businesses and having a package offering is probably what we need right now to collectively get everyone back to a a sense of normalcy and getting people back out and frequenting the businesses that they, maybe couldn't have supported in the interim. So. Good.
Oh yes, and my wife now, she owns the spa. That's a horse of a different color, trying to going to try to get people in there. But I don't know if she's on the line today. But anyway, she's been going through a lot of webinars and so on, and how to, and how to get things going again this post-COVID. So you might want to reach out to her for what she's learned over the past little while, talking to a lot of people in these webinars with Enlow and some of the suppliers and so on and so forth.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm
Thanks,
just
Rick.
going to give the mic there to Jackie.
All right, well, I guess my first comment, no better person to follow than Rick, because my first comment was how inspiring it's been to see business owners adapt and, and adjust and get creative. And I think that if there's any silver lining in this very difficult time, it's that everybody's been forced to take a real hard look at their business model and their service delivery and their supply chains and their, level of service and expertise. And really, you're forced to get efficient. And sometimes a pause is very good for that. And, and that's been my experience, is you're easy to keep on keeping on, but maybe there's things that could have been done better. And now you've got the time to see that. And I too, like Adam said, have been overwhelmed with all business clients I've spoken to, and how positive overall they are remaining, despite the fact that we're into week 4, that this will pass and that things will be better for the most part. Different industries are being impacted differently, no doubt, but people are certainly appreciating and reaching out for all the various resources and taking that holistic approach in, a wage subsidy, a bit of a decrease on an interest rate on a loan, or a moving to a different loan, that sort of thing. One thing that I did find out last week, and I spoke to Margot about this, is that some employers and or, staff that maybe are not as busy as they normally are now because of this downturn are wanting to use the opportunity for professional development. And maybe this is a great time to be doing some education and, be that much more prepared when your clients start coming back in droves. And I reached out to the Canada NL the training grant.
Canada NL job grant.
Yeah, and just to see if there was any funding available, because, they've been great in the past for helping offset some of those expenses of those courses, like the ones I'm sure Rick is doing online. They all have a fee associated for the most part, and they're not taking any new applications. So I don't know if Barry can speak to that, but if an employer or is looking for ways to keep their staff engaged, and now's a great opportunity for them to upgrade, and there's a program available online that they can do safely to make them that much more effective when things come back on stream fully. Why wouldn't there be some subsidies available? Why aren't they looking? They said they're only dealing with who they have in the queue right now. And, I just wanted to throw that out there to see if anybody else would like to have access to some training money.
I reached out to them in follow-up as well, just to ask for clarification. I mean, I know it probably is what it is, that things are on pause, but even if there's a shift or a consideration to moving funds, because there's definitely business owners that they have the time right now to dedicate to training that they might have put off. So if there's a wage subsidy or grant for that particular aspect, that would be an amazing way to help your staff or yourself to do some betterment.
On that same thread as Jackie, now I also, even when we're talking about students and hiring students during all of this through Canada Summer Jobs Grants, it's likely that these students are going to be working remotely and be using technology and different tools and platforms. And I think that, if we're putting them into these kinds of jobs, they probably don't have these skills, and it'll be very challenging for business owners to, teach them this. So I think there is a opportunity for some funding, or even through just on the Canada Summer Jobs Grant thread, to have training programs available for digital skills and things like that. Like I do see that opportunity for sure.
Hi, Margot and Heather. It's Rod from NLCU. I was having microphone issues earlier, so I'm a bit late to jump in on the CBA thing, but we're offering that program as well. And one aspect of it, we've been asked to, report people who we may be talking to who don't qualify based on the initial 50,000. Apparently the feds were looking for feedback on that. So I think it might have been Barry that mentioned that they may be looking to tweak that for sole proprietors, you know, even businesses that they may pay through dividends and stuff instead of payroll. So not sure where that's headed, but yeah, we're alive and well on that. And for members who don't qualify, we are looking at them, you know, one-off basis to try and help them through.
So Rod, if anyone who is not with the credit union, could they reach out to you about that?
Well, the way it works, you have to go to your, I guess, primary FI. And apparently one of the criteria, or one of the ones we have at least, is that we had to have your, I guess, primary bank account as of March 1st, 2020. So.
And I think that's what we saw. A lot of people, they were running into smaller companies had just set it up as a personal account. So they were getting disqualified. But even if we could collectively get those stories or accounts of who, for whatever reason, isn't qualifying.
Exactly.
We've seen the program changes with the targeted wage or the wage subsidy that they went from the 10 to the 75 because they listened. So if there's still a big gap there, absolutely, the more that we can hear from that aren't having success or even just challenges navigating through, definitely want to hear from those. So, and if there's no primary bank, I guess you've been dealing with, just call CBDC and talk to us. So hopefully we can help you.
Okay.
Just before you pop out there, Rod, Margot, I just sent you a question that maybe Rod might have some information about. I know I was going to ask Curtis.
Is Curtis still here?
No, Curtis is not here anymore.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything positive from this. So just in terms of issues with business interruption insurance, or if there's policies covering the pandemic. So I know the insurance companies were, there was a shift. I think everyone was calling on car policies at some point just to reduce, you know, that car that's in the driveway. But business interruption insurance, I don't know if anyone's had any success with claims in that regard.
I haven't heard anything on that one either. I will ask a question though. On the CBA loan, I'm trying to determine, does anyone know if the 25% repayable portion, is that going to be taxable to the business?
I haven't seen.
Pay back, yeah.
And I've also seen any of the information about that 25%. It says up to 25%. So I don't know when that's determined. The up to, you know.
Yeah, you hope that it isn't taxable. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mary. Did you say you hope it's not taxable?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure. For sure. So I didn't know if anyone has come across that in their travels to be able to comment on it.
That would be horrible fine print, Ken. Pass that along.
Yeah, if anyone knows, you can certainly pop a comment there. So we're obviously over the time here. Oh, but Ken is here. Ken wants to say, go ahead, Ken. You might have to unmute. I tried to unmute you, but I couldn't.
Yeah, just a comment on the business loan and the forgiveness of up to. It's not up to 25%. It's forgiveness of 25% up to 10,000. So if you get the $40,000 loan, you can get up to $10,000 forgiven, right?
Okay.
So, and a couple of other comments. Somebody mentioned rent for businesses. I know the Prime Minister has mentioned this today or yesterday about looking at the fact that some businesses have extreme rent in their facilities, and that's going to be looked at to see what can be done. To Jennifer's comment on the students doing other things, once somebody gets a student, whatever you deem as their role in that particular business or volunteer group is open for interpretation, I guess, as to what they can do with that student. But I just want to say, and you heard business talk about getting together and doing things and that, but I was in business from 1986 to 2014. And believe me, in 1986, it was pretty damn slow. It was many weeks you had to wait, keep your paycheck in your pocket till there was enough money in the bank to actually cash it. But what I used to do when we were slow on a downtime, because different times of the year, even in the appliance repair business, would be slow times. I would deliver flyers to certain areas, and most of my business was in St. John's. So I'd get a couple of thousand flyers printed, advertising my business, and probably offering a 10% if you phone because you got this flyer on the labor portion. And I would hit areas like Cowan Heights where the houses were tight together. Businesses in CBS now could do that in subdivisions. Like, and if 2 businesses or 4 got together and printed both sides of a flyer, you could get somebody, either do it yourself or get a student or whatever to do it, and deliver them to the door and hit areas like, look out the window of my office and you're looking at the Cherry Hill subdivision. So you could cover that area in a matter of a couple of hours. You'd have a sales pitch to every door. And if you did that in some of the more densely populated areas, a lot of people don't know certain businesses are even in this town still today. So it'd be a great way to get your name out there, offer some programs or offer certain sales pitches on it or whatever. But you'd get people's attention if it showed up in their door versus if it went in the mailbox, because a lot of people don't bring the we call it the junk mail home with them. They'll put it in the garbage at the post office or at the community mailbox. So it might be an idea for some people to look at getting together to do that.
I think that's a great suggestion, but I'm just going to throw this out there that I've seen the Telegram get a lot of hate on social media for still delivering flyers. So there's, you know, while we want to do these things and do these creative ideas, sometimes you have to take a step back and think, okay, during this situation, is this what people want to see, or will that be a negative impact on my business and my brand? But that's just a.
But you're not actually knocking on the door. You're just putting it in the door. Now the Telegram flyers, the heat they were getting, they were just throwing it at the end of the driveway, and the snowblower was getting it, or it ended up in the ditch. So you know, it wasn't in a concealed space that it wouldn't blow around or whatever. But we always just slipped the flyer in the door and gone. We didn't knock. You didn't have no contact with the person. You were just running from door to door, and it worked. Believe me, it worked.
What about a digital idea for that? Like maybe we could help each other's businesses by doing we all have thousands of people on our email lists, and if your email list is active, then there's no reason why in our newsletter that we put out every week that we couldn't feature another business in CBS.
Yeah, I think, Lisa, I think there's definitely an opportunity for, you know, speaking about businesses who have been able to pivot and who still are operating, that maybe we can get together as a group on an email thread or something and try to collaborate on some of that. I think that's a really great idea. And I actually have a couple of things coming down through the Board of Trade to that respect. So I'll definitely be in contact with everyone who I think fits that mold.
To what Ken said too, I agree with him. Last year I did 2,000 postcards. They're like little beauty postcards with just a nice picture and some information about our product. And we put them out through CBS, and we got more uptake from that than we did from sending out our emails on MailChimp. So, you know, I think people are more likely to be very responsive, especially now, if it was a small, nicely done, you know, little postcard that maybe had a little bit of CBS artwork on the other side of it, you know, something like that.
And definitely. I know there's some new companies, like I know Neil certainly has mentioned it before, and just using it as a marketing opportunity and offering those discounts or early, you know, commitment now to maybe, you know, a partial upfront payment and do the service later. That would certainly help with the cash flow in the interim to, you know, long term.
I just want to bring it back there on the $40,000 loan. Just, Ken, do you know, I know you said it's up to 10,000, but the understanding that most people have is that you are like, there's no 20,000, it's here's your 40,000.
But you don't have to take the full 40,000. It's a loan up to 40,000. I don't think you have to draw down the full 40,000. So therefore, 25%. If you take 20, well, 25% of it is going to be 5,000. You'd be forgiven if you had the rest of it paid back by that date. So it's not necessarily somebody looking for 40,000. They may be looking for 20 to get them over the hump and would qualify under this program. But with the $50,000 payroll, they're actually looking at that as well, because I had a business contact me who started the business in December in my riding. It was up Southern Shore, and they had a fantastic 3 months of it. And then all of a sudden, this came on right after Snowmageddon. So it was a double whammy for him. But he can't justify the 50,000 payroll. But if he stays open this year and does as good as he's done up to now, he'll have a payroll for this year of $120,000. So it's trying to fit a way that he can fit into that program to get that loan and be able to keep his staff on now in the short term.
And to that point, Ken, I don't know if you've heard this from others, but it was great that they made the modification to looking at, January, February as your revenue benchmark for other provinces. But where we had Snowmageddon, our January, February probably isn't the best benchmark to compare for a drop in March revenues, because January might not have been very good for most businesses in terms of revenue because of that. So I don't know if there's any special consideration that they're giving to Newfoundland in particular for case-by-case basis for that program and that threshold.
Yeah, but I think they're allowing you to use those months if the previous months were better. They're allowing you to try and qualify with that drop of 30% versus using a month last year in the same time that you would have been, your revenues would have been up, and you're having to get down below that 30%. So it's designed more to allow you to use a bad month versus use a good month from 2019.
All right. Oh, Daryl, do you just want to go ahead?
Yeah, just quickly follow up on the CBA. We applied for that we deal with Scotiabank, and we applied through the mobile banking, and there was not an option to select a different amount. And the information that was given in there was that the funds would show up as a line of credit, basically, and the funds would be fully deposited for the 40,000 into your operating account. So the 40 is going to go in there. Whether you want to take it all and pay it back right away, like, I don't know if that's a possibility, but I'm not sure that there's going to be an in-between on that, because my understanding is it's going to fully fund to the 40,000. There wasn't an option to choose any less. So I'm thinking that I don't know if it'll be you pay the 40,000 back and you get a rebate of some sort, or if you only pay 30, but I don't know that it's going to be an up to.
Yeah, Daryl, I'm not exactly sure either on the end of the process in December 2022. What's going to happen? I know it says that the loan has to be repaid by, I guess, December 1st or December 31st, 2022. So, once that's done, I mean, is the money going to come back to the government again then? We haven't got that far along in it, I got to be honest.
Now, on that note, I know on the previous calls that we've had with Minister Jolie, she actually a number of times wanted to know what was happening on the ground with the applications. So Daryl, I can try to get that to try to get at least share your story with her.
And just curious from the folks before, I know you're going to end it soon, but I don't know if any of you guys or know of businesses in terms of the wage subsidy that you had to lay off or you can't rehire, or of folks that aren't able to rehire just because the capital isn't there to fund you sort of in that bridge. Are there folks that are on the call that might speak to that? That you would have your staff back in a heartbeat, or of businesses that would have their staff back, but it's because they don't have the capital right now to float it until that program is online. That's a no.
That's a no, not now. I know we've gone over time, and I know it's still great conversation, of course. So If you need to leave, thanks so much for coming. But if you still want to stay and chat, I don't have anywhere to go.
I forgot I get the private messages.
To answer what you were saying, it's Lisa. So I laid off all my staff because it's in my business is in my house, and I just couldn't deal with the stress of the idea of this whole COVID-19 and me being responsible for someone else getting sick or my family getting sick. So I don't know I don't know if I'm going to be hiring more. I'm planning to hire everybody back because I think that we will see our way through this. Mm-hmm. You know, but as to exactly what date and time, I have no idea.
That's great. It's good to know.
So I don't know if you want to close her off, Margot, or
consider it closed. No, it's great. I certainly appreciate the conversation, and we're going to add it to the list of conversations that we've had. So it's good to see some folks out there that are weathering the storm on the sunniest day that we've had so far. But yeah, just keep in touch with us, keep talking. We really appreciate your honest feedback and the good and the bad. And it's great to have Ken and Barry and Carol, if you're still here as well, to connect with folks. And we know sometimes you're on 1,000 calls at once, but it's great to see you stay connected, because we need you to stay connected for our sanity as well as for our future.
Awesome. Sorry, I'm chatting with someone in the box. Awesome. Thanks everyone, and don't forget, just check in on our COVID-19 website if you are looking for any training sessions, webinars. Follow us on social media. That's where we're going to post daily. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, folks.
Thanks for having us.
Take care.
Ciao.
We could do it in virtual reality next time, Mike and Steph.
Yeah, there you go.